Time to cook something at camp. Hello adventurers and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing some light camp cooking. Just a little hungry and I want to make something up that's tasty, so I thought this was a good way to do it. So I'm going to be using some of the things that I picked up at the grocery store and some of the things that I already had in my van to put together something delightful. I like to find use for all the different things that I have, and so there's a few things that I need to use up in my fridge, so I thought what better thing than to sit down and chat with you all while making something yummy. Now, I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to cook today, so I kind of just brought out a bunch of different stuff, and I was originally thinking about making stuffed peppers, but I'm not sure if that's going to work out because it's been off and on kind of windy. So I'm going to try to get the filling for the stuffed peppers cooked up, and if it works out, then I'll make the stuffed peppers. If not, I'll end up using some of what I was going to for the actual filling, and it'll just be a really delicious like jambalaya dish. Now this isn't a from scratch recipe. I'm using a jambalaya mix just for the sake of urgency of getting this finished. I picked this up at Aldi and I think it's going to be really tasty. But I also have some sausage, some onion, some garlic, and some other spices to go in here, and so I am excited. Of course, always to get started though, I need to get out my stove and my windscreen. So I'm going to go ahead and grab these and put this guy to the side. I'm going to be cooking our meal today in the Ridge Monkey deep pan, and so that way it'll just be a little easier. I can do everything in a one-pot preparation method, and that way it doesn't take as long. So for this I need about 2.5 cups of water. I'm going to free pour. That's about 1, 2, and I'll go a little strong because it's rice, just to make sure. The box also says I need some vegetable oil, which I do not have with me, but I do have margarine. I know a lot of people don't like margarine, but margarine actually is a great way for you to get some of your omegas in, so I'm going to be using this. Now, for those who have commented previous that this is one step away from plastic, I implore you to look up all the other things that are one molecule away from something else. For example, water and hydrogen peroxide. We definitely need to drink water, but we don't need to drink hydrogen peroxide, but they're only one molecule different also. So I wanted to share that because I know that a lot of people have heard that phrase.
It's one step away from being plastic, or it's one molecule away.
But in all reality, that is a lot of different things. And pretty much everything that we eat at some point in time is not going to be great for us. You know, pick your battles where you can. But for me, I'm going to be using the margarine. And again, just for a little further knowledge there, purified water, soybean oil, palm kernel and palm oil, salt, based out of soy, vinegar, natural flavors, vitamin A. Yeah, that's it. Now, if you're watching this and you're like, I have no idea what you're talking about, some of my previous comments have said that this stuff is not great, and I understand. But again, everything that we eat is in some way, shape, or form created by chemicals. Even the things that are considered to be organic many times have had some kind of treatment along the way. So we eat what we can, we don't eat what we don't need to, and we try to use the things that we have. So even if I do change this up and use regular butter or ghee going forward, we're not going to waste this just because people don't like it on the internet. Instead, I'm going to use it as I have since I was like 5 years old. Okay, that's in, and now I'm just going to get this off of the spoon. As the water heats up, it will start to come off. Okay, and it goes. And then I'm going to stir it in really good. And again, just letting it, just make sure it's completely covered by the water. And then I'm going to close this so it'll cook a little faster. So here we go. Now, whenever I was washing off my peppers, I don't think these are going to be good ones to stuff because they're a little thinner. And so what I'm going to do instead is pull out my knife and just go ahead and cut these up. And then I'm going to put them into the mix with the rice. That way it'll just give it a little bit more of a full-bodied, happy flavor, and also I don't end up losing the use of my peppers, because sometimes you get something at the store and you're like, ooh, this is going to be great for this, and then you get it back to your campsite and you realize that the integrity of it might not be what you thought it was, and that was the case with these peppers. So not going to waste. Again, we're going to use them how we can. And sometimes that means we just have to be a little bit more creative in our thought process. Okay, it's boiling nicely, so now it's time to drop the peppers in here. And we'll slowly drop them in. Gonna give it a nice good stir. I have this beef smoked sausage, which should be perfect. After all, it is just me here eating, so this is already going to be a lot of food. So I figured that by doing half of this, I won't have as many leftovers, and that way I don't have to figure out my meal later on. Into a resealable bag I go with it. Just push it down really good, and then I can close this up and put it in my fridge, and that way it doesn't leak or do anything weird, and it's good to go. Time to cut up this sausage. I'm going to cut it down the middle, and then I will cut these into smaller bites. And into the pot the meat goes. So again, just slowly. There we go. Now it's time to cut up this onion, and I'm only going to use about half of this onion, so I'm just going to cut it right down the center and put the other half away in another one of my little baggies, because those baggies are awesome. Everyone should have reusable baggies if they're doing van life. It just works out so well. Now that I've done this, I just need to put this in here and seal it up. Time to cut. Into the pot it goes. Time for a little garlic. And stir. I'm going to add a little bit more liquid to this also, just so that it can really absorb all those flavors of the things I just added. So it looks like this. This just elevates what could be just a box meal and turns it into something a little bit better. With this box meal, you can just add some meat and it's fine, but adding the extra bell pepper and onions, it really just brings it up a notch and makes it taste more authentic. Now, I do like to make my jambalaya from scratch, also making a good roux and then using the holy trinity of food. If you don't know what that is, visit Louisiana. You'll learn real quick. Everything has it in there. However, today I decided that this was going to be a better fit for me because I'm just here at camp and I wanted to use what I already had. Now for adding up the ingredients of today's meal, most of them are things I already have, like the garlic, which is just a staple. The sausage I picked up for $3.50 at Walmart. I ended up getting the onion for less than $1. I think it was like 60 something cents, and I still have half of it to use. I had a pepper in the pack of 3 of them, and they were $1.50 for a 3-pack of them, so not too bad. And then the rice mix itself, which I'm currently using as my trash container, was just under a couple bucks also. So altogether, not a horribly expensive meal, but something that's gonna have a lot of flavor and be really tasty. And even though I was trying to cook just for one, this is definitely gonna be at least 2 servings. So I've already got my dinner planned for the night in this dish, and I'm really happy about it. It's still simmering down, and so I'm just gonna periodically stir it to make sure it is absorbing all of those delicious flavors. And in the meantime, I'm going to make my life a little bit easier and clean up around me. Cleaning up as I go is always the easiest thing, and by going over everything with a once over first, it just makes it easier whenever I have to consume water on the road. So I've gotten into a routine that even if I'm at a nice campsite like this one, I still try to conserve as much as possible, and that way I'm not being a super consumer of water and constantly having to go and find new water. I prefer to use as little water as possible, so I have more for drinking water, and I only carry a little bit. Okay, gonna put this away. Keeping it out though, so I can clean out the ridge monkey in a minute. I have my bowl, my water, and oh, it's looking so good. Whenever you're camping, there's a lot of things that you can do to give yourself a good meal, and it can mean that you shortcut. For example, I could have bought rice, I could have made my own roux, I could have done all of those things, but sometimes that can get overwhelming. So instead of doing that, I decided to take an easier route to get there. It doesn't matter ultimately how you end up at the destination, but more so that you end up there and that you don't shortchange yourself along the way. For example, I could shortchange myself by saying, I'm just gonna make something super simple like a sandwich. Or I could pull out my easy camping setup and within 20 minutes have a really good dinner that actually has some substance to it. And I didn't have to do it all from scratch, but instead I chose to do it from the heart by adding the things that I know are good with it. The onion, the pepper, the sausage. I also added that garlic in there because the fresh garlic is delightful and can transform just about any meal. When you're cooking for one, you can get overwhelmed really easily. I do it all the time. So plan things that you don't mind eating more than once, and then don't worry about the serving size being for one person, because then you have it for 2 meals, which is like cooking for 2 people, which is much easier. And just be prepared, because that's going to open up your possibilities to a lot more options. Because if you can cook for 2 people, then you can easily cook for 1 person for 2 meals. And now it's time to serve. Serving up this delightfulness right into my bowl. And now it's time to eat. This is about to be so good. With that said, guys, I'm gonna finish this up. Remember, we're not here for a long time, but we are here for a good time. This is delightful.